Come with me on the world's longest direct flight from New York City to Singapore. I started my journey off in Newark Airport and then we got early access to get on the plane. The really cool part about boarding business class is you get a lot of foot space. And one thing that really stood out to me about Singapore Airlines compared to Emirates or anywhere else is the level of the flight attendants and how much they knew about, like how much they cared. When you come on board, the flight attendant knows your name. You're greeted with a glass of free champagne or apple juice. They have non-alcoholic options. So I had prepared for this trip for a very long time. I booked my flight about 6 months in advance, and Singapore Airlines has this really cool feature where you can choose a chef-created meal before the flight. So you can download the Singapore Airlines app and select your meal a couple of weeks before you actually board your flight. That way everything's taken care of. So this feature is specifically called Book the Cook menu. You can use it through the app, and they have very specific things that you can order that if you didn't pre-order it on the app, you just wouldn't have access to it during your flight. They have Singaporean, Malay, Indian, I know some halal food and Asian food, and there's a lot of different variety. So Singapore Airlines gave me an amenity kit, a hairbrush, slippers, eye shade socks, earplugs, a face mask, and disinfectant wipes. With the amenity kit, I had to ask for it, so remember to ask for those as soon as you get on the flight. And then you got a menu of what to order. The first thing I started with was this garlic bread along with like a little bit of what looked like an arugula salad and a cheese plate, a fruit plate, and they gave me my choice of wine and water. So that was my first meal as soon as I got into the flight. That was about an hour, less than an hour into takeoff. They feed you pretty fast on Singapore Airlines. And then I was shameless. I really wanted to make the most out of this flight and I wanted to try all their food. The next thing I got was what looked like their wonton soup. This was really good. It was like the next meal I had and it was served pretty close together, and they finally paired it off with dessert. The dessert was a coffee sponge cake filled with coffee cream, so that was pretty good. And then the really cool thing about Singapore Airlines is you can order mini meals in between official meal time. So I wanted to make the most out of the flight. I ordered the braised noodles with mushroom. That was pretty good. They gave us access to tea. One thing I will say about Singapore Airlines, and I haven't found a tea like this in any of my travels, is that they give you access to their signature brand called TWG tea. This is truly one of the best teas I've ever had in my life. They don't really have it in the United States and they only have it in Singapore. So I asked the flight attendants to stock me up on that. And then they prepared us for bed service. They set up our beds and all of that. And then we prepared for the next meal, which was the Hainanese chicken. I was really excited. They have a famous stall in the Hawker centers in Singapore talking about Hainanese chicken. So that was really good. Their dessert was this rose tart. It was made with like a flaky crust and rose flavored curd. I will say, I don't remember the desserts on Singapore Airlines being a standout, but they do the best with savory food. So noodles, soups, all of that is going to be amazing when you go. And then I had constantly heard about this drink called the Singapore Sling, so I ordered that as well. They have a lot of different mocktails and cocktails that you can order. One thing, the highlight of my flight was, again, the care of the flight attendants. I had asked the flight attendants where I could eat, and she was so kind. She literally wrote up over like 15 different post-its of places and things for me to try. After researching on Google, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, no one else talks about all the in-depth types of cuisine that you can get in Singapore. So it's best to ask the flight attendant. She was really kind. And then she actually brought her coworkers all to my seat because see, I was solo traveling. So about 3 of them that came and just gave me all these post-its of dishes they recommended, where to go. And I actually hit up a decent amount of them. I'll link them here. And I really loved a lot of what she recommended. I had never heard about it on social media. And then we landed into Changi Airport. There is a checkpoint station that you can quickly do. They have free Wi-Fi and fill that out on your phone. One thing that no one tells you about Singapore and their airport, it is extremely humid. If you see that beautiful waterfall that's in a lot of Instagram pictures and on TikTok and social media, no one talks about how there's not really AC because there's so much lush foliage that needs to be kept alive and humidity for that. So it is very hot. You're getting off an 18-hour flight. You're walking to usually the other side of the airport. I think I walked like at least 20 minutes to get to the falls, getting out of the terminal. and I had to make my way to the taxi service. So just remember that maybe drink a coffee before you exit the flight because there's going to be a lot of walking in the Singapore airport. And even though they do have escalators, it's just not enough, especially if you're exhausted after a flight. But yeah, wear light layers.